Hey, good evening, and thank you for joining us on the Scabbard. It is game night versus the New York Islanders. Stop me if you heard this before. It is game number two against the Islanders, game two of three in the season series. As you remember, the Islanders beat the Sabres last Saturday, so it's nicely congruent there that playing first two Saturdays of the season against the Islanders. We lost to the Islanders 3-2. Uh, Goal with about 6.5 minutes left in the game, um, sealed the Sabres' fate. Sabres came back from a two-goal deficit against the Islanders. And yeah, the Islanders are 2-0-1 on the season. Last night they played in New Jersey and lost to the Devils on a absolutely sick, and I hope it never gets better, goal by Jack Hughes. Abused all three Islanders on the ice, and yeah, the Sabres should have the advantage at least as far as energy wise because they played on Thursday. They got the night off last night and hosting the Islanders. Islanders had to travel. Um, I never account like it really doesn't count for me like uh, games for the Islanders and the Rangers going to New Jersey because they can sleep in their own bed that night. I don't really feel like those are road games, but still they had to travel today, get to Buffalo, and played last night. So the lactic acid is still in the legs, and the Sabres should have an energy advantage. They're also going to have the energy advantage because it is return of the goathead night. So, first goathead game of the season. I'm excited. Anybody who watched the Buffalo Sabres last season and watched how they played with the goathead jersey on, 10-1-1 last season. Um, yeah, you've got to be excited, especially the way that the Buffalo Sabres have started the season this year. Tough one on Thursday night, and it was really of their own doing. Sabres dropped a 4-3 decision to the Calgary Flames. Flames and the Sabres traded goals in the early part of the third period, and the Sabres were never able to fully recover and dropped a 4-3 decision to the Flames, dropping their record to 1-3 on the season. No, it is not time to completely panic yet, but we are going to see changes tonight, and we'll get and start talking about the lines here in a few. Let's see. Let's talk about stats of the night. So there are two stats, one explaining last game, one looking forward to this game. So last game, a 12-3 disadvantage in giveaways. The Sabres were incredibly sloppy in that game, and that led to, especially the first goal, that was really ugly. It wasn't a great play on Levi's part, either. The follow-up shot was gonna go wide, and he kicked it into the net. Um, but yeah, the Sabres were too sloppy. They couldn't get they had moments where they got the offense going and, looked good at times, but then yeah, I think they are tried to pass too much. They tried to go east west too much. In fact, and starting, I think next week we'll start incorporating some of the Sabers audio. I'm trying to get permission from the Sabers to do that. Some of the post game audio, but Don Granado talked about how there was not enough north south in the game, and I agree. There's too much trying to get, and I don't know what it is. Uh, but they do in the last 2 seasons, they try and play too pretty sometimes. They try and make the fancy pass when the direct pass would suffice. They try and make the extra pass when the shot would be the better play. It's very frustrating. Um and it's strange because when they wear the black and red, they tend to play that north-south game. They tend to take that shot. They tend to, be more direct in their play. I think, Darlene's comment about feeling evil and it's a different vibe when they wear the uniform, um, that does play something into it. Maybe it's kinda like that, Oakland Raiders black, attitude type deal. So, um yeah, but the other stat in the last 5 seasons, Sabres are 8-15-2 against the Islanders. but 6-3 since Don Granado became head coach, and it really came to a head during that weird post-COVID season where, the teams only played within, the refigured divisions of which Buffalo was in the same division with the Islanders, and there was due to a COVID outbreak on the Sabres, the game got moved where they ended up playing, like, 3 games in a row against the Islanders and lost all 3 games 5-2, um, and at that point had fallen to, like, 0-6 against the Islanders that season. They played 8 games against the Islanders. That ends, lead that kind of makes the whole Ralph Kruger situation come to a head, and he's fired, and Granado becomes head coach. They win the last 2 games of that season, and they've gone 6-3 since then. That counts the season's second game loss to the Islanders this season. So, um, last, season, they were 2-1 against the Islanders. So, maybe a little bit of a turning of the page on the rivalry with, and I wouldn't call it really rivalry with the Islanders. They're in a different division. But, definitely as another New York-based team, and at least in the NHL, at least the New York-based teams are all in New York. I'll just say that. So, Buffalo, versus the Islanders, uh, in the last 5 seasons has been lopsided, but the tide has been turning, and hopefully the Sabres can use what they learned in game 2, to apply to, game number 5 this season. All right, let's talk about lines, going into the, game tonight. The, Islanders' projected lines, the forward lines. That, we got that from, what is that website? It's the Daily Faceoff website. Again, media wasn't really forthcoming with lines today on Twitter, so I had to dig and found this great website that has daily lines updated. So this is from Daily Faceoff. Matt Barzal, Bo Horvat, Simon Holmstrom on the first line, Pierre Engvall, Brock Nelson, and Kyle Palmieri on the second line. Anders Lee, JG Pajot, and Hudson Bashing on that third line. Again, beware the former Sabers. Um, the former Sabres eat us alive, and that fourth line is always a problem. Martin, Cizikas, and Clutterbuck, they are in your face. They're probably one of the best fourth lines in the game, and so the Sabres top line will need to be wary on that. Actually, any line that's on the ice against that fourth line need to be wary on it because they bring the energy. They do have some scoring ability, um, but they play a very, very heavy game. So, and then for the Islanders' defensive pairings, not much change there. Pellick, Dobson, Romanov, Pollock, Bolduc, and Sebastian Aho, the lesser Sebastian Aho, playing defense for the Islanders, not the forward for the Carolina Hurricanes. Um, and then in goal tonight, I have the wrong goalies. Oops. So in goal tonight is Semyon Varlamov. He's getting his first start of the season. So Semyon Varlamov being backed up by Ilya Sorokin. Sorokin got the win in game 2 of this season. And Varlamov is making his season debut. Sorokin played last night, led in 4 goals, or 5 goals, I'm sorry, but did make some spectacular saves, including one on Jack Hughes early in the game, just sprawling and made a great glove save. But yeah, he gets the night off on a back to back, and will face Semyon Varlamov. The scratches tonight: Julian Gauthier is a healthy scratch. Oliver Wallstrom and Scotty Mayfield have minor injuries that are going to keep him out of the lineup. At least that's the early report. Um, they're both listed as day to day, and not in the lineup. So the Islanders are um, they're 2-0-1. As I mentioned earlier, they lost their first game of the season last night in overtime. They have 5 points on the season, and doing pretty well. I expected a bounce back season from the Islanders. I thought last year they had a few changes that didn't really gel immediately, and a lot of times you'll see that with teams where they bring in a lot of talent and then they don't gel immediately. So, the first full season, Bull Horvat. New coach last season. Now I think they're playing better, and playing a little bit like I expected them to play last season. Um, and we'll see how well they do this year in that very competitive Metropolitan Division. But they're doing pretty good so far. Um, let's see on the Sabres side. The forward lines, very much changed. From the first few games, I don't know which one's 1, 2, 3, 4. This is how they were presented. So Greenway, Thompson, and Cousins, which makes a pretty good first line. The Greenway getting rewarded for his really good play the first few games of the season. Thompson, Cousins getting off the schneid in that. Last couple games, and glad to see that. Then they're putting Skinner with Middlestat and Tuck. I think the idea is to get the that third line that was producing really well, spread that wealth amongst the other two, the top two lines to get them going. Then you'll see JJ Paterka with, Tyson Jost and Victor Olofsson. Olofsson draws back into the lineup, and how does that happen? Well, unfortunately, Zach Benson, had a little bit of a ding, in the last couple games, so he is sitting out tonight. The Granado said he was healthy enough to play, but, wanted to give him some time to heal up that injury. Plus, it's not an unusual move for Don Granado to give, a young player a couple nights off. Um, and to watch from the press box to gain that different perspective to see what's going on the ice. Um, he did that with Quinn and Paterka last season. He's done that with Cousins before, so it's not unexpected. Um, but nothing has warranted JJ or Zach Benson being taken off the ice, but the minor injury does give them a good excuse. Same thing with our goaltender. Tonight it's the debut of Eric Comrie this season as our goaltender. They have Levi listed as the backup, although Levi was listed as getting a little bit dinged. Um, did not practice yesterday, and so he's getting the night off. I wouldn't be surprised if we see UPL as the backup officially. These are all projected lines that we get from the media and from the that Daily Faceoff website. Um, there's not much to the Sabres coaches can change that at any time up until I think about a half hour before the game. But Levi is listed as a backup. I wouldn't be surprised to see UPL is sitting in the backup because there's no reason to have if you think there's a little bit of a ding for Levi, there's no reason to have him in there in case Comrie uh, craps the bed and you got to pull him unless you're just expecting Comrie to wear it if that happens. Um, yeah, have 2 healthy goaltenders in the lineup for that. Our defensive pairings tonight, no changes. Samuelson, Dahlin, Power, Jokiharju, and Johnson, Clifton. Same verse as all previous 4 games of the season. Um, yeah, so Sabres enter a very challenging stretch here. It's 3 games in 4 nights. So tonight, they play the Islanders. Tomorrow they are off. Monday versus the Montreal Canadiens in Buffalo, and then they travel to Ottawa on Tuesday, their first road game against a team. I think a lot of pundits are measuring the Sabres against. It's one of these up and coming teams that um, the Sabres are going to have to compete against to move into that playoff position. And so far, Ottawa's come out with a pretty decent start to the season. So the Sabres are really going to have to turn it up, and they can't fall much further behind 'em. And yeah, they're only 4 points out of first place of the division, so it's not definitely not time to panic. But um, the longer and longer you get into the season, you are risking things, and uh, especially when you're playing teams that you're gonna measure yourselves against, that Ottawa game is gonna be key. Montreal, you should beat them because they are not as good of a team as Buffalo. But Buffalo last season had instances where they just didn't play well at home against teams that were tanking. And not that Montreal's tanking this season. I think they're kind of on the backside of their slide. But yeah, you've got to take care of business. They have to win at least two of these three games. That would put them at 3-4 on the season and in better shape. It doesn't matter which two of these three games they win. Although I would rather see them win a game against Ottawa. I'd love to see them win all three, but if they win that game against Ottawa, I'd feel a lot better. And but yeah, so key stretch again, a good reason to keep Levi off tonight. Let him be ready for. I would assume that there's going to be kind of a rotation. Levi playing Monday, or I'm sorry, yeah, I mean, you might see Comrie on Monday, if he plays well tonight. You might see UPL on Monday, if he doesn't play well tonight, and then Levi on Tuesday versus the Ottawa Senators. Saber scratches tonight. We've got Zach Benson. They're calling it an injury. It's day to day. It's hard to call it a full injury. Jacob Bryce is still healthy scratch, and Matt Savoy still out with an injury. Although both Benson and Savoy skated today in the morning skate, still not yet released for play. The scratches for the Islanders are Gauthier healthy, Wallstrom and Scotty Mayfield with an injury. Both Wallstrom and Mayfield are also listed as kind of that day-to-day dinged up injury, so they're out of the lineup. And we might see Gauthier play. There's talk about maybe switching out one of the forwards in the third line for Gauthier, but that hasn't been posted yet. So let's talk about our player profile. 2 for 2 the last couple of games. Um, Actually, I think all of the guys I've featured have at least had points in games when I featured them. So this one is Alex Tuck. Need to get him off the schneid. Um, uh, so we featured Zemgus Gergensen. He scored. We featured Tage Thompson. He scored. So let's go with Alex Tuck tonight. Hopefully, we can get him to get healthy on the goal scoring front. Um, Alex is a 6'4" right winger, 220 pounds. He was drafted 18th overall by the Minnesota Wild. A lot of people forget that he was in the Wild system. He played for Boston University of College. Traded to the Vegas Golden Knights, part of that original Misfits team, for considerations to ensure that the Golden Knights took Eric Halla. Um, so he was part of a piece that ensured that the Vegas Golden Knights would take a particular player and leave the rest of the Minnesota Wild roster alone in the expansion draft. Um, he started that Misfits season, the first season for the Vegas Golden Knights in Chicago, in the AHL, but was called up rather quickly and played a pretty good role in that team that went to the Stanley Cup. Had shoulder surgery. He ended up getting a 7-year contract out of that $33 million contract. Had shoulder surgery, was injured, was going to miss a good piece of that 21-22 season. When the whole Jack Eichel episode began, the Sabres were looking for a trade partner. Um, Knowing that Alex Tuck was injured, they went ahead and pulled the trigger on the deal, bringing him and Peyton Krebs, along with a first round draft pick from the Vegas Golden Knights, and which turned out to be Noah Ostlund, I believe. That it really restocked the Sabres, and I think really the cool thing about that trade was that it brought a player that was really excited to be in Buffalo, and that was Alex Tuck. Grew up in Baldwinsville, born in Syracuse, I believe. Grew up in Baldwinsville, next door neighbors to Tim Connolly. So he was a Sabre fan through and through. Excited to be here. Now that was kind of the thing. A lot of people knock Buffalo as not a destination for hockey players to come to in free agency. And here you have a guy that's like absolutely excited to play for his hometown team. So, and a lot of times we have players that come from the Buffalo area who don't want to play for the Buffalo Sabres for whatever reason. Playing for your hometown team has, it has its distractions and all that stuff. So, some players prefer not to play for their hometown team. But here's a guy that was really excited, and I think brought him some of those vibes that you wanted to see with the Buffalo Sabres uh, moving forward. And I think kind of changed the room there. I think he eventually will be a captain of the team once Kyle Okposo retires. Um, it's between him and Rasmus Dahlin, I think. But I think Alex Tuck does that captaincy for a couple of seasons. Um, and that's just my prediction. All right, three keys to the game. Can they recapture the goathead magic? So, like I mentioned earlier, 10-1-1 last season, 4.8 goals per game. I mean, it wasn't that they were just winning games; they were blowing opponents out wearing this jersey. It's so strange, and I was one of many people calling. We were playing so poorly at home, and this is primarily where we wear this jersey at uh, with the royal blue jerseys. We were a sub 500 team, even with a 10-1-1 record at home with the goat head. Um, that maybe we should switch to this full time. And if it happens, I mean, the Sabres are 1-2 on the season at home in the royal blues, and if they come out and they blow out the Islanders tonight, I think you're going to see more calls for the switch to the red and black at home full time. If not for this season, the I think the rules prohibit us from making that kind of jersey switch. But uh, next season, we it's hard to ignore. Like Rasmus Dahlin, there is a different vibe when this team plays with this jersey on, and I don't get it because they didn't play with that vibe. I mean, they played the hardworking vibe. I mean, it was that. Um, Ted Nolan, hardest working team in hockey kind of vibe for the years that the Sabres wore this jersey. I mean, of course, you had Hasek back there backing it up, but uh, you know, I don't know. They certainly didn't score 4.8 goals a game back in those days. The first season when they had uh, from the lockout when they were still wearing the jerseys and they had, Briere and Drury and Bannock and Roy and Afinogenov. That team, yeah, they could put up goals, but still they weren't scoring quite like the Sabres were in this jersey last season. So can they recapture that magic? Number two, simplify and fundamentals. Complete those passes. Go more north south. Break the yeah, get your zone entries. Make sure that where the shot makes the most sense, you take the shot and try and look for the pretty pass to make a pretty goal. Be direct and get that puck to the crease and crash the crease. Uh, and then don't let the Isles hang around. Again, they played last night and they played in overtime last night, and a disappointing loss last night. So jumping on them early, uh, getting them out of their game because again, they should have done this against Calgary, but Calgary took the advantage by scoring, keeping ahead of the Sabres, and they let the Flames hang around and have the advantage all night, and then of course, they couldn't come back at the end of the game. Same thing here. Don't let the Isles hang around. Score early, score often, score your 4.8 goals, and shut them down and demoralize them. That's the keys to the game tonight. Looks like we are getting right close to. Oh, we got 5 more minutes before Sabres game night starts. We don't have too much other stuff to cover tonight, but again, I'll ask if people are interested in becoming a co-host on the show. Reach out on my socials or email me. Would love to have you come on. We'll talk, kind of get a vibe with each other and see what whether it'd be a good fit. But yeah, I'm looking forward to talking hockey with somebody. Of course, you can always put your comments in the chat, and they'll display immediately right here on the side of my head here to this side, and I respond to comments and chats and all that stuff while we are on the air. So don't be shy. I would love to talk hockey. So Anyway, that's going to be it for the show tonight. Sabres game night starts in 5 minutes now, and go check it out on on MSG or WGR 550 Radio. Their show with Paul Hamilton, and we'll talk to you all on Monday night when we take on the Montreal Canadiens, the Canadien de Hockey or the Club de Hockey Montreal, whatever they call themselves. But yeah, that's it for the show tonight, and have a good night, everybody.